Is this new game going to replace EverQuest? The next game to shake up the MMO genre. Grab a penny and flip it. That's my answer. But if you've been dreaming of an EverQuest 3, I feel this game is the closest thing to it being real. This is going to be my thoughts on a new MMO in development called Monsters and Memories, M&M. A game that is fighting Pantheon to be the spiritual successor to EverQuest. An old school MMO. You can't ski in the dark, 30-minute corpse runs, and no maps to tell you where to find the lost remote that's next to the Cheetos you swept under the couch. Chapter 1. Gameplay. A disclaimer. So I tried out the game for the first time during a free playtest in September 2025. The game is not finished. It is still being made, but the core is there, and I have a lot of opinions to share. I've seen footage of this game a few times, my EverQuest colleagues trying it out on earlier playtests, but the character models, it looks like a joke character you make in Oblivion. I just couldn't. I really hate the way the ogres and dwarves look. And ultimately what it boiled down to, I thought, this isn't EverQuest. This isn't my favorite game. Why should I bother? But one of my favorite guys to play with, Variety Void on Twitch, he pulled me aside at a party. Try this stuff out, bro. I swear it's great. And half inebriated, I open up my computer. I follow the sketchy link Variety Void gave me. I download the game, probably laced with a bunch of horrible viruses, pop-ups that will never go away. Done. I click the launcher, the game comes up. The character creation screen pops up. I look at the human character models. A solid 3 on Tinder. I can work with it. I got my beer goggles on, you know? I play the game for an hour. I clench my teeth and look down. Oops. I logged in and started in an area that's vaguely similar to Dubai, or Freeport, a desert city on the coast of a massive sea. And I start at night. I can't see my credit score with how dark it is out here. Night blindness is a real thing in this game. I can't see well, and even worse, the game gives me almost no direction on what to do. The only thing I have is a note in my inventory that tells me, see the Bard Guildmaster. I am a Bard fanboy, and I gotta see how they treat my baby here. But I decide to delay that quest to just kill stuff from the newbie yard. Controls are the exact same I'm used to as EQ. I haven't ridden a bike in 5 years, but it's nice to see I still can. I get a bit low in health after killing a bunch of mobs. Takes a long time to regenerate up, so let's go check out this vendor nearby while I heal up. A shifty gnome. I talk to him and he offers me a quest. If I can fill up this bag he gives me with 6 cloth scraps, he'll give me more of Variety Void's magical substances. Of course I say yes. The gnome gives me a 6-slot bag. A lot of people don't even care about completing this quest, I found out. The free bag he gives you, it's huge when money is impossible at level 1. As a solid 3, OnlyFans isn't going to work out for money. I'm just going to have to work a job like normal people. And I have almost no inventory space, and this free bag helps that a lot. So I go around and try to find skeletons. They drop the cloth scraps. Why? Because they're skeletons. I also kill other random mobs, and after 20 to 25 minutes, I finally beat the game. Yeah, I hit level 2. This game is like going to college. 4 years later, you finally get something, you know? I later find out just how extreme the game is. Variety Void told me that there was a guy who was only level 33. He was only level 33. 8.5 days played. It took him 8.5 days to get halfway to max level. Dang. And the crazy thing, I actually like it. But before you hate on me, let me finish. It forces you to slow down and enjoy the ride instead of rushing to max level to do the same 2 raid fights every week. The journey to endgame, chef's kiss. Being there, 9-to-5 job at a corporate office. You go there because you got bills to pay, but are you having fun? Yeah, exactly. I like that the game forces you to take your time. Next part. Let's do that quest. How do I get to the Bard Guildmaster? I press M on my keyboard. No result. There's no map. No map at all. So I run into the city. I follow the road signs to a place called Night Market. That's where the note told me to go. And I see this place called Glimmer Moon Hall. That's the Bard Guild. I run inside and I find the Guildmaster and hand him my starter note. He gives me a bag full of 6 items. I need to find 6 people throughout the city and hand them each an item. Crap. I've never been a UPS delivery driver, and especially before Google Maps, but fortunately he gives me some vague directions to each person. I write it down on a friggin' piece of paper so I don't forget, and I try to figure out how to get to these places with no map. This actually isn't my first time trying this quest out. This is the second Aeonic I made. The first Aeonic got fired from the delivery job. I'll get into that later. I spent a good hour running around the first time to only find 3 of the 6 people. This time it took 20 minutes of running. Just 20. Because I was a lot more familiar. Some people may hate it. I actually like there being no map. In many ways, Monsters and Memories is intentionally made to be inconvenient. It is very inconvenient to not be able to see in the dark. It is inconvenient to not have a map. But I agree with this decision. Normally in MMOs, I constantly have the world map up. I'm just staring at myself on the map as I go from point A to point B. But in this game, you don't do that. I'm forced to constantly pay attention to the world for landmarks. Okay, this is where I make a turn. Okay, this is where these merchants are, etc. I'm forced to pay attention to the world as opposed to a boring map. Playing this game felt much more immersive than other games I've played beyond classic emulation of EverQuest. But they might be going a bit too far. I do think there should be an overworld map. So don't tell me where I am in the local area, but tell me the gist of where I am in the world so I can figure out the lay of the continent. How do I get to that far off area? What direction do I need to run? If that makes sense of what I'm trying to explain. But don't make it easy though. Put in a world map, but make it so that you have to buy it from some merchant and it costs a decent amount of money. Make a map something that you earn, not just handed to you. I think that's fair. But I also see some futility in this game design. Okay, so there's no maps. People will just pull up a web page with the game map on it. Just alt-tab to see where they are. It's almost the same thing as an in-game map, just a little more inconvenient. Yeah, I don't know. I stand by the decision not to have maps. It adds to the game. So I finish all that running around and I kill some more skeletons, but these spawned with some weapons. I really need the cash, and it seems like a big deal just to get 1 silver in this game. 100 copper equals 1 silver. And coin has weight, by the way. It slows you down. Extra inconvenience. But anyways, I need to buy bags, spells, and gear badly. I finally get 6 cloth scraps. I combine them in the bag and hand it to the shifty gnome. He hands me another bag as the reward. Usually these bags go for 50 copper. It's like finding 3 rare skeletons with weapons on them and selling it. Great return for this quest. This quest giver is also a greedy merchant. Inconvenience. So certain merchants will only buy certain types of items from you. You can't just take your rusty sword to the flower guy and expect him to take it. He won't. Only the weapon merchant will buy it. But if you're lazy, if you don't want to find the proper merchant, you don't want to do the long run to the proper merchant, there are greedy merchants conveniently in the newbie yard that will buy anything, but they rip you off, like selling your used game at GameStop. So I later found out that arbitrage is a great way to make money in this game. Newbies will sell stuff to the greedy merchant. You just buy that junk for a discount and then reap a profit by selling it for more at the proper merchant. It's a cool system. I hope the devs keep it. It's a way the game pushes you to explore because you need to find where those proper places are to sell so you make more money from selling your stuff. So I was killing at the Westgate newbie yard. I want to see the other side. So I ran through the big city and checked out the Northgate newbie yard. Did some killing there. Hard to see with how dark it is, but got to level 3. From 1 to 3 took 2.5 hours. Wow. I run back to the West newbie yard. I just preferred that area, and I start killing higher level stuff for better experience. I go for any beetles I see. They drop these fire beetle eyes that can be used as a light source, helps during the dark, and I found out there was a quest for these beetle drops. I run to a spot called the Sojourners Camp next to the bank, and I find a guy who's been served a cease and desist letter from John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Holt Beetle Wrangler. If you hand him certain combinations of beetle carapaces with beetle legs, he'll give you this green beetle armor. Better armor class than anything I can buy right now, and a little extra hit points. I like the newbie armor quest, I really do. A good design. I got my gear slots filled, bought my bard instruments, and got all the bags I need. Farmed up all the cash. Now to get to level 5. Big level for bard. Takes forever to run from point A to B. Run speed buffs shave off a lot of time. That was where I ended on the first day of the week-long playtest. I saw some server announcement where they hit like 1,700 players on this server. And there were 3 servers, by the way. I was playing on one of the least popular, I think. That's crazy good numbers considering. The game will be a paid subscription to play in the future when it fully releases, possibly in 2026. But this is like their nth time of a free playtest. Day 2. I check out the trade skilling system. I've seen all these campfires that people have made, and I want to make some s'mores too. So I bought a lumberjack axe for 25 copper and clicked on these nodes to get wood. You need 8 wood to craft a campfire. Not 7, 8. It's important you know this. You need 8 wood to make a campfire. Don't forget that. The campfires will eventually burn out, so you also need to harvest a little extra wood. You click on the campfire with the wood log and it'll replenish it for a while longer. So what's the point of campfires? They let you cook meat for food. They're a light source for the dark, but most importantly, they give you bonus experience when you kill a mob near them. They show that you have a rested buff when you're in range. It doesn't work when it's raining outside though. That's a bummer. I also harvest some copper ore nodes. I think these are for making weapons and armor. And I found out that you can sell all these trade skill materials for some money too if vendor arbitrage isn't your thing. Farm up some cash by mining nodes. I do a little crafting, turning the raw ores into ingots. This trade skill system is basically World of Warcraft. Collect resource nodes, go to the crafting table, and you get an RNG dice roll to see if you succeed. I have mixed feelings about M&M's trade skill system. I like the resource collection part. I don't like the crafting part, but I'll get into that later. After my business was handled, I got into my first group. The whole point of this game is to play with other people. I ran to the next zone over called Shaded Dunes and found these other people killing crocodiles by the waterside. Still pretty dark as the sun was low in the sky, but really cool looking. Got my first real taste of how Bard works in this game. So for those who don't know, Bard is a jack of all trades class, versatile. Can do a lot of things, but not the best. Most classes will only do 1 to 3 abilities per fight. These fights last a while. Bard is much more busy. Every 3 seconds, I'm pressing a button to play the next song. 4 songs at a time. So I'm pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, over and over the whole time. Very active class to play. I like it, but it's not for people without insurance. It's carpal tunnel, the class. I like how the Bard class is intentionally inconvenient to play, so it keeps a lot of the riffraff out, to be honest. See, EverQuest made it too easy. It implemented a feature called Melody, where the game auto-plays the 4 songs for you. You can be lazy, and it allowed people who had no business playing Bard to play Bard. I didn't like that, because it diminished the players who actually knew what they were doing. I like that manual twisting seems to be the only option in the game, and again, with that inconvenience in game design. This is good inconvenience, adds to the experience. This group was the most fun I had playing the game yet. The first day of killing stuff in the newbie yard, it was okay, but teaming up with others and mindlessly killing mobs at a spot, just super relaxing, very enjoyable for me. And I think that's EverQuest at its best. Camp spot in the open world, never-ending stream of mobs, and you chilling with some buddies for hours, mindlessly killing the mobs to level up. You know, some excitement here and there with a random pather that comes through, but yeah, peak EverQuest is right here. And I can say that Monsters and Memories has nailed that gameplay loop. It is so fun to play this way here. Huge victory for these devs. Congratulations. It is very fun. I kind of see this game as basically 1999 EverQuest pre-conveniences while using WoW classic character models. Except none of the bulky shoulder pad crap that WoW character models had. I like armor to look proportional. Hands, shoulder pads, boots shouldn't be freakishly large compared to everything else. You know, what are you compensating for over there? But that's just my personal preference. I don't need to drive a lifted truck. Some people will strongly disagree with me, though. I do hope the devs put in weapon sheathing, though. It looks kind of silly to have your weapons out all the time. And after about 40 minutes, I get ding level 6. Experience went a lot faster in a group than solo. And maybe the campfire was helping a lot too. It was nice to be able to see better because of the fire at this late at night. I love how the night blindedness is handled at this point. I do hope the devs don't make it even harder, though. Don't make it worse. Just keep it where it is. It's fine. Day 3. I ran all the way down the coastline to below this green castle in the distance. I really like how you can see these cool structures in the distance and then go to them. The scale of the world, the run here took forever. This game world feels huge and I love it. This camp was interesting. It has a day-night cycle. So during the day, it's human smugglers. During the night, they change into were-rats. Why? Don't worry about it. It just is how it is. And eventually, my first name mob spawns, Toma the Two-Faced. I tag it and bring it to camp. We take it down, and it drops a hat with some poop stats on it. I want to show this aspect of Bard. The class design in this game is very old school. I love it. I've talked a lot about this, but let's do it again. So since WoW in 2004, most MMOs have simplified the class system. It's just a trinity: tank, heal, DPS. This game and EQ1 are some of the outliers, the exceptions. A quaternity, a 4-part class system: tank, heals, DPS, and crowd control. Bard is not a tank. Bard is not a healer. Bard is not a DPS class. Bard is a crowd controller. It is just as valuable, if not more, than those other roles. Monsters past level 5-ish are basically not soloable by most classes. You need to group. And God forbid you pull 2 mobs, you'll wipe the group. So some classes specialize in handling ads, handling the extras. These classes are Enchanter and Bard. So Bards with their run speed buff make them great pullers, better pullers than most other classes. So I go out and I tag with a little damage ability I got at level 1. I bring the mob back to camp for them to kill, and I mez it right outside of the camp for the tank to rip aggro when he's ready. Mezzing is like a perma-stun that lasts for a few seconds. Mob can't do anything until it gets hurt by damage. Group finishes off the mob that they're currently on. Tank then swaps to the mob I just mezzed, rips aggro on it, and I go out to pull another. Perfect. The best pullers always keep a mob in camp at all times. If the group ain't killing, you ain't getting the XP. And I really appreciate how the game gets to the point with your core class abilities. I got my ability to tag mobs at level 1, and I got my class defining mez at level 3. The most important tools to do my job, I got them immediately: pulling and crowd controlling. In EverQuest, Bards don't get a pulling ability until 12, nor a mez until level 15. Getting those at 1 and 3, Eminem does a much better job in this regard. And I gotta show this real quick. I pull the caster mob, and it blinds me. That is some classic EQ for you. I couldn't see anything that was going on. Sweet. And this footage is another example of the day-night cycle with the mobs at the camp, them swapping. Really cool that the devs did this. But anyways, the class design. I was talking about the class design. Most classes get their must-have group abilities very quickly, much faster than EQ gave you, and I really appreciate that decision. Eminem wants you to group, and it wants you to group fast. So I did some research on the wiki. This could be wrong, but I looked up the classes when they get their spells, and this is what I found. All tanks are able to rip and hold aggro at 1. Perfect. All casters get bind and gate at 4. So bind is a spell where if you die, you set the spot you respawn at, and gate is a quick teleport to that spot. Clerics get their first res at level 8. It's better than EQ, which makes you wait until 12, but I'd argue it should be even sooner. I think you should get res at level 4. I go into a whole spiel about this later, about how this game handles dying. Res is an ability to bring you back to your corpse if you die, and return some lost experience. It saves you a 30-minute, 60-minute corpse run. I think it's the most valuable ability in the game. Druids and Shaman get a run speed buff later than Bard, so it's 5 for Bard and level 8 for Druid and Shaman. But I really think Druid and Shaman should also get a res spell like Cleric. It doesn't seem like they do currently, but again, I'll argue about that more later. Shaman get their core debuff of slow at level 1, great. The fighter, aka warrior class, gets an AoE taunt at 7 and a defensive ability to reduce incoming damage at 8. That's huge. You didn't get those defining abilities until like level 55 in EQ. The Feign Death ability lets you pretend to die to drop aggro. Monks get it at 4 instead of 17. Much, much better. Necro get it at 8 and Eski at 12. Rogue, Variety Void's favorite class. They get backstab at level 1. You don't have to wait till level 10 to backstab. It's ridiculous EQ1 made rogues wait till level 10 to get their most core basic DPS ability. And one thing I'll argue quickly is the Elementalist, the Magician class. They use elemental pets. Elementalists don't get their ability to summon group members to them until level 50, the Call of Hero ability from EQ. I think they should get it at level 10 or so, but is what it is. And then we get to Enchanter. I'm going to skip past them for now. I have some very strong feelings about them. And after 70-ish minutes, I get to level 7. The group leader decides that we should move. We were kind of out-leveling the smuggler camp. So we run along the shoreline back towards the city. And during the run there, I see a sand giant. Imagine that's what I look like to my 2-year-old. Looks so cool. This is some footage closer up. Like these stories I've heard of people when they first load up EQ, they're like, what the heck is that thing in the distance? Just felt just like that. Anyways, this game is just like EQ where you have to stay on your toes. There are random high-level mobs scattered throughout zones that can one-shot you. You can't just blindly run through zones or you'll get smoked. And I really like this inconvenience as well. Save travel isn't just a given in this game. The world forces you to pay attention to it. Great choice. We make it to this oasis where I plop down a campfire with 8 wood. Remember that, 8 wood, not 7. We call this camp Ashira because that's what the Wolfman mobs are called nearby. And it was an amazing experience. We had some interesting mobs pass through the camp too. We killed a will-o-wisp here. Didn't need magical weapons to hurt it though, like EQ1. Was expecting that. This camp really required a crowd controller to do. So most of these Ashira spawn in packs of 3 to 4, close proximity. So if I were to tag one, it would tag them all 3, 4. I didn't have a lull ability yet, so I just had to pull the whole lot and mez the extras down. Lull is an important ability that lets you lower the awareness of mobs, so its buddies won't also aggro when you tag one of them out of the pack. Really important ability, but it's just one of the gripes I have about the Bard class design. I should have lull already, but I don't. I'll complain about Bard more later. The group went really well. Great EXP because we were going for higher level mobs, and this is just what M&M does best. This kind of group gameplay. I would gladly pay a subscription for this. 6 people working together to plow through mobs for hours. A little danger here and there to spice it up, but a lot of fun. Pretty chill. You just can't get this in modern MMOs. They're all single-player games with tacked-on optional multiplayer. You know, heck, even modern EverQuest, expansion 30-something, it's so far removed from this simple kind of gameplay. It's nice somebody is trying to bring back this old-school MMO grouping. This is exactly what got me hooked on this genre 20-plus years ago. And that's where we run into a problem, actually. So the group ends after a while. I take a break for a few hours, log back in late night, and I can't find a group for over an hour. I reached this point where basically nothing was soloable. The mobs were too beefy, I couldn't do enough damage, and they also hit too hard. They would have smoked me. I needed to group to make any progress, and I couldn't find a single one. I was logged in for an hour plus and couldn't play the game at all. That hit a little too close to home. A lot of you know that feeling. This was when I finally got into a group after waiting forever. I get to level 8 with these guys. can now charm monsters to fight for me. Cool ability. Anyways, what worries me the most about M&M is it has the same number one problem that EQ has. This is exactly why EverQuest, quote unquote, died when World of Warcraft came out in 2004. WoW was sold as the game where every class gets solo to max level. You were not forced to group like EQ. EQ, no group, no progress. You could log in, go LFG, and never get invited to a group for 5+ hours. Whole day gone to accomplish nothing. You're paying subscription to a game that you can't even play. That's horrible. M&M is amazing to play in a group just like EQ, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to group. The devs nailed that gameplay, if not improved on it. I'll give them that. But M&M comes off just like EQ, where it's nigh unplayable for many classes. I feel it needs a compromise, or I would not be surprised if this issue kills this game too. The population will eventually outlevel the newbie areas, and any new players trying the game out will have nobody to group with, can't progress, and they'll quit, never to return, because why pay for a subscription to a game that you can't even play? I think this is the solution, the compromise, but I'm not sure how to implement it. M&M needs to stay a group-first game like EQ, because that's the most fun way to play. Encourage that, but also implement something soloable like WoW. In WoW, you can log on whenever you want and make progress on your character. It feels empty sometimes, feels empty to me, but at least you're getting something from your $15 a month subscription. You know, you can't find a group, no problem, no stress. But the experience of playing with others in EQ, so much more fun than soloing in WoW. I feel if M&M could combine the best from both games, they got something special in their hands. A true EverQuest 3 innovation, combining the accessibility of a newer MMO where you can log on and immediately start doing things solo, but also herding players towards the fun social aspect of people grouping together. Old school meets new school in MMO design. The compromise I'm thinking about is this. Maybe put in an area in each zone where mob difficulty is toned down. It's soloable for all classes, but you get worse experience gains. So this is the map of the zone I'm in. Maybe have this circled area as the soloable region. Put something like this in each overworld zone. So as people log in, naturally players will congregate here to the solo areas as they want to immediately start grinding. Maybe put in a small repeatable quest too to break up the monotony. And as all these solo players see each other in close proximity, it gets crowded. It shows them that, hey, grouping's possible. There's the numbers to team up. So it encourages these soloers to form groups so they could get far better EXP, far better loot at the more challenging spots deeper in the zone. Maybe a system like that. It's a solo-friendly area of each zone that concentrates all the solo players together and encouraging them to team up for the better camps, the more rewarding camps elsewhere. Maybe that's the compromise, but I don't know. Back to the group. This group made me have uncomfortable questions. I convinced my way into this group that had 2 enchanters and a cleric. The enchanters had charm pets, these Dunes madmen, caster mobs. I think one of the enchanters AFK a bit, so I took control of his pet every once in a while with my own charm. My charm lasts like 18 seconds. 18 seconds of fun. These pets were disgusting. Beefy on hit points, crazy good DPS, and the best thing about them all is they healed themselves. You didn't have to heal them at all. How broken is that? So while my charm lasts for 18 seconds, the enchanter charm lasts for minutes. They just sit at the campfire while their pet tanks, DPSs, and heals itself, while they do exactly nothing. And I got pretty mad about it. Did I pick the wrong class? So I did some research on the game wiki. What I liked about Bard? 4 things. I like that I got a corpse find song at 1, a pulling ability at 1, 2, to tag mobs, Mez at 3, and a aggro lower at 7. I feel bards shouldn't be able to drop aggro completely like monks, like with their feign death ability, but it's nice I can lower my hate after mezzing and charming a lot. But those 4 things were all I liked. I was disappointed to find out that the level 5 run speed buff I get was significantly slower than the Druid Shaman run speed buff. They get 8. Bard is a 25% boost, and Druid Shaman is 40%. Huge speed difference. And what about instruments? If you have an instrument on, it makes the song effect stronger, right? Put your drum on and you run faster. Yeah, about that. Didn't notice. I barely went any faster. I couldn't tell. I barely regen health faster, like 1 extra hit point. My magic resist song added 1 extra point. What was the point? So what? Almost no purpose to use instruments. Like, I feel that they should at least make it so that the Bard run speed buff is just as fast as the Druid Shaman one at level 8 if you're using a drum, that 40% boost. At least do that. It shouldn't be dramatically slower. It's like spitting in my face. I spent so much of my limited money to buy instruments for them to be more disappointing than your Google search history. But this stuff, it's like complaining the weather is just slightly too hot. It's trivial compared to the sun melting the friggin' rubber on my shoes. The thing I hated the most was the Enchanter versus Bard balance. Yeah, there's absolutely no point to ever play Bard over Enchanter. Enchanters can do everything Bards can do, and more, and do it better. Enchanter got a long-lasting charm pet with insane tank ability and DPS output. These pets even healed themselves. Far better than a real tank, far better than a real DPS class in many instances. Bard charm is fine by me at 18 seconds duration, but the Enchanter charm is just too strong. It's too much better than a real tank or a real DPS. But I can see a naysayer going that, hey, Enchanters are squishy. Their charm bet breaks, and they can die really quickly if they don't handle it. Well, so are Bards in M&M. Enchanters wear cloth, Bards wear leather. They're both very squishy classes in this game. Bards were far more survivable in EQ1, where they could wear plate, or even chain in the case of EQ2. That extra armor class over Enchanters was huge, especially as a puller. You get hit a lot. What else? Bards get their core abilities far too late. Charm, 8 for Bard, 4 for Enchanter. Lull, 9 for Bard, 4 for Enchanter. Melee haste, 12 for Bard, 4 for Enchanter. Mana regen, 16 for Bard, 8 for Enchanter. Run speed buff, 25% boost for Bard, 40% boost for Druids and Shaman. Bards got screwed in this game. Rating-wise, I don't even know what they do. They only bring a little extra mana regen and a slight magic resist. Bards can't boost any other resist, like fire, cold, disease, poison, etc. Only magic right now, it seems. Then this other aspect. So if you're pulling like you should be as a Bard, and you're constantly out of the camp, your group's never getting any buffs from you. They're not getting any mana regen song, unlike an Enchanter, who just cast their mana regen buff on you and it lasts 30 minutes. The way I see it, Bards can only do 2 things good in this game. They pull well, and they barely need any mana to do it. Meanwhile, having to work a lot harder by constantly twisting songs. That's it. Enchanters, yes, they pull slightly worse, but they get their abilities sooner. Longer duration buffs and debuffs, making them less effort to play. Their pet can tank and DPS. Enchanters got the best mana regen buff. They crowd control better than Bards because they get AoE mez, unlike Bard. Basically 6 ways that makes Enchanter superior to Bard. Why ever play Bard in M&M? Enchanter versus Bard in this game, it's like a person asking you for chocolate and then you give them butter pecan. Butter pecan is close, but definitely not chocolate. It's not what I asked for. So how should M&M devs fix Bard? Using an instrument should be obvious that it's making an impact. It needs to be more powerful. Like the first thing they should change is making it that so if a Bard is using a drum and playing the run speed buff, it should be just as good as the Druid Shaman run speed buff. That 40% boost. I would give Bards the lull ability at 3 not 9, because they need it immediately for grouping. And I would give them the mana regen buff at 10. But there's a problem still. So I'm repeating myself. If you're pulling like you should as a bard and you're constantly out of camp, your group is never getting the mana regen song. Whereas Enchanter, they just cast their mana regen buff, last for 30 minutes, and walk away. How do we fix that problem? So conveniently, EQ1 made a solution. It was the Echo ability. I'd like them to implement a system where a bard can imbue an existing campfire with an AoE buff. Just one buff, though, to make it fair. Imbue the campfire with mana regen, or a hit point regen, or a melee haste. Just one song, but a song that stays active even if the bard leaves the camp to pull. And this system is so that bards can provide at least some benefit to the camp without being there. It's not fair that an enchanter can cast 3 buffs and forget about it for 30 minutes, but if a bard leaves the camp to pull for 5 seconds, the group gets absolutely nothing from them. Enough ranting about that part. Let's move on to part 2 of the video. Chapter 2, Gripes and Wishes. From my understanding, M&M devs are placing a premium on remaining true to a classic design philosophy. They do not want to water the game down with subsequent expansion packs. And I think a lot of MMO players felt the same. They wished EverQuest and World of Warcraft did that. Instead of jumping off the deep end like they did, expansion to expansion, keep it consistent. But I'm concerned because I also get the impression that the devs have this stubbornness about what they want the game to be. I get this impression that they will die on a hill to keep certain inconveniences in the game, even if everyone screams that they hate it. In some ways, I respect that. Some ideas are just stupid. Don't listen to the idiots in your audience. But also, some ideas are definitely worth considering. In 25 years of MMO games, we have a long track record. We know that some design choices clearly don't work. The people who made EQ in 1999, they didn't know better. There was nothing to really compare it to. And WoW comes along 2004, 5 years later. They did. They did know better. They copied the best parts, cut out the worst parts, and made the most successful MMO ever. A very good game. But in simplifying the formula, I feel that WoW watered down the experience. Subsequent games watered it down even more, to the point I feel that MMOs are unrecognizable. What is an MMO anymore but an online single-player game? I'm all for single-player games. They're great. If you want to play Skyrim, play Skyrim. But when I log into an online RPG like this, if multiplayer isn't going to be a focus of the game, then what are you doing? And in that way, MMOs since EQ and WoW have bastardized the formula. I appreciate M&M for taking a step back, trying to bring the genre back to its roots. It's very fun. It's very fun gameplay. And M&M devs are privileged. They're in a very privileged place. They have 25 years of mistakes to learn from. I feel they're right about adding certain inconveniences to the game, but I'd argue they need to be careful with it. If inconvenience improves the player experience, keep it. Wholesale, keep it. Having to use the proper merchants, no maps, slow travel, coin has weight, night blindness. You have to be deliberate about what you loot and what you don't, what you leave behind. High mob difficulty, pushing people to group, etc. I am all for those inconveniences. They add so much to the experience of this game. But if the inconvenience detracts from the player experience, they need to drop it. So let's talk about dying in this game. Hypothetical, to humor me. I logged on with some buddies, went to this dungeon full of skeletons, could barely see with how dark it is. But that's cool, it's going great. I ding level 9, and then the healer needs to go to the bathroom. He's gone for about a minute or so. A different group that was deeper in the dungeon, they run past us towards the exit. What the heck's going on? 5 high-level mobs run right into us. Healer's still gone. The tank goes down because my mez keeps getting resisted. DPS drop like flies next, and then me. I go down. Healer gets back to the screen right as it's too late. Loading screen. I respawn at my home city, and I see tons of curse words fly in the group chat. I open up my character window and find that I'm naked. All my gear and even my spells are on my corpse in that dungeon. I've got nothing. And even worse, I look at my experience bar. My heart drops. I was level 9, and now I'm not anymore. I died to something that wasn't my fault, and I lost a level. I lost everything. I'm livid. All of us in the group, we make our way back to the dungeon. Gotta go there. Except the dungeon is really far away. I start the run back, cursing under my breath the whole time, shaking mad. I spend 25 minutes running there, and then have to wait an extra 10 minutes because one of my group mates is taking forever to meet up. The mobs have completely respawned inside. We gotta clear everything in the way. But we struggle because the healer doesn't have his spells. His spells are still on his corpse. The tank doesn't have his gear. The DPS don't have their weapons. We struggle the whole way through. And now we're 2 to 3 mobs outside our corpses. A group of players run by us to the exit. Another 5 high-level mobs crash right into us, and we're even more helpless. Loading screen. I respawn at my home city. 3 people in the group are gone. They /quit out the game. And I see my experience bar. It's even lower than when I started in this group 2 hours ago. I run back 25 minutes. By this time, it's late at night. I do a /who command to see how many players are in the zone. Could anybody help me? And I'm the only one. I have no hope to get my 2 bodies. I log out, bring up my web browser, I log into my game account, and click to cancel my subscription. I uninstall the game. This could absolutely happen to you in Monsters and Memories. I'm not joking. When you die in this game, your gear and spellbook stays on the corpse. You lose experience, so making de-leveling a thing, and you respawn at your bind point, no matter how far away that is. That bind point could be 30 minutes, an hour run away. Ouch. And you might not be able to kill the mobs that are blocking you from your corpse. Kind of impossible because all your spells and gear are not on you. They're on that body. That was 1999 EverQuest, and that is Monsters and Memories now. The way dying was handled in 1999 was so bad that every MMO afterwards, including EverQuest itself, got rid of it, and got rid of it for good reason. It makes people quit. The fun of these games is progression, getting levels and improving your gear. That's why people log on every day. A game that threatens you with losing progression, a game where you can lose levels through no fault of your own, a game where you can lose all the gear you've worked hours and hours for, that's not bad game design, it's horrible game design. It's in complete opposition to what keeps people playing the game, progression. Having gear stay on the corpse, it's far too punishing unless there's an emergency safety valve to retrieve those items. A vendor you can pay to retrieve your gear. And that's even a compromise by me. The whole idea of gear staying on the corpse, I think is just stupid. And most modern MMOs would agree. I feel the risk of losing your gear, it keeps people from exploring. I don't want to do deep dungeon crawls. I don't want to take tire risk because God forbid I die down there, it could be impossible to get my stuff back. So much so, I had to delete the first Aeonic I made on this server because when I died, I ran right into a hostile area of the city while I was doing my Bard Guildmaster quest. I was trying to find people to turn in items. So 10, 15 minutes later, when I finally get back to where my body is, trying to retrieve my items, I couldn't. The hostile NPCs that killed me, they wouldn't let me close enough to drag my corpse out. So I ran in there a second time, hoping for luck, and I died a second time, unable to retrieve my gear. my character was effectively soft locked. Thankfully, I just made the character, so I deleted it and made a new one, but I didn't have a choice. Most people in my shoes, they would have just quit. And that's only talking about gear loss. What about experience loss and dying? It is demoralizing to ding the next level and then instantly lose it in a stupid death. Or raiding. You die a lot raiding. You spend hundreds of hours to get max level and then you can lose it? That's horrible design. Nobody wants to lose their level because they died 7 times testing out a new raid fight. There is a reason why every serious MMO after EQ1 completely dropped experience loss. WoW and EverQuest 2 were right to drop this inconvenience completely. And then the time loss. Dying should suck, yes, but the ridiculous amount of time wasted to recover your corpse, I feel the game needs to focus on what it does best, grouping. Any time not spent grouping is stupid. If you have to spend 30 to 60 minutes recovering your corpse, you're not having fun. This game is stupidly stopping you from doing the thing that's most enjoyable. So I strongly feel the game should change dying. A compromise, if you will. If you die, your gear stays on you, and instead of losing experience, you incur an experience debt that you have to repay, a steep one if you want, making it so that you can't lose levels, but you do need to pay back lost experience before you can earn any. I don't really like the long run back to your corpse, but I understand a reason of keeping it. It keeps the res spell valuable. In EQ2, where you just respawn at the zone entrance, resing is really unimportant in that game. You don't really need a reser, and I don't want that ability to feel useless. So I do applaud the devs for being stubborn about certain design choices, but this hill is just foolish to die on. The game should be difficult because of the mob encounters, not the punishment for dying. Let's talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about the class design. I like some of the new classes they put in the game. There's Inquisitor, it's like an Enchanter Warrior hybrid. They are a tank that specializes at fighting spellcasters. And then there's the Spellblade class, which is like a Warrior Wizard hybrid that imbues their weapons with procs. Kind of cool idea. But I think the devs need to combine some classes because some of them are just redundant. I don't see the point of keeping Archer and Ranger as separate classes. Archers just use bows, and then Rangers use bows and melee. Like, why are they 2 classes? Just merge them. It dilutes the value of each by keeping them separate. An Inquisitor, it's a very interesting class this game has, that Warrior Enchanter hybrid, like I said. You spot mezzes and silence caster mobs. I love the concept, but I feel Inquisitor should be merged with Paladin. So typically you got the 3 tanks. You got the Warrior, Paladin, and Shadow Knight. Warriors mitigate damage the best, Shadow Knights do the most damage, and Paladins are the most defensive, they heal the best. Oftentimes, Shadow Knight versus Paladin balance has been pretty bad. The SK damage output and healing from life taps often far outperforms Paladin healing and defensive capabilities, so much so that Paladin often becomes a niche class that few players even choose. Very subpar. I feel that if Paladin gets merged with Inquisitor, if they take their ability to silence caster mobs, that would significantly boost their defensive abilities. So much so that I feel Paladins would be far more balanced with the SK superior damage output. Because caster mobs are dangerous. What if you had a tank class that's specialized to handle them? That's a niche for them. I also feel that Paladin need their own line of heals separate from priest classes. Heals that are either one weaker or they have higher mana costs. I actually favor higher mana costs. I like Paladin heals being emergency type heals, very strong emergency heals, high cost and huge impact. Like, I think Paladin should have a group heal, a self heal, and a single target heal along with their lay on hands ability for emergencies. Let's talk about healers. I'd like them adjusted too. Healers should have the option to be more active than what they are in EQ1, where they just sit most of the time. like adding an offensive heal to each healer class, like a little tiny nuke combined with the heal on the mob's target, aka the tank. You'll regen faster if you sit, but you have the option to get in the fight if you want. I like that. For grouping, I would argue that all healers should be able to res players starting at level 4. But only the cleric and paladin classes should have a res that returns lost experience, as to keep them unique. I argue that all healers should be able to res because the super long corpse runs are not respectful to player time. It worsens the game, it does not heighten it. And 2, as well, say you're forming a group, it shouldn't feel like you're settling because you are forced to choose a druid or shaman healer who can't res instead of a cleric. Cleric shouldn't be so much superior to the other 2 healers where you don't even consider who you want to invite in the group. I would also like to steal from EQ2's res feather system. All healers had a spell to summon a single charge res clicky that went into the inventory of all the group members. This clicky only worked if it was casted on the healer though. It only res the healer. So say there's a fight and the healer dies, but everyone else survives. You're screwed. The 5 other people in group have to come to a complete stop for 30, 60 minutes just because the healer died and has to run back to his corpse. That's ruining the gameplay experience for everybody. So in EQ2, the way they fix this, you target the dead healer, click the res feather, and they're back. Brilliant. And the res feather clicky, it makes feigned death classes even more valuable. So say the whole group dies except for a feigned death monk that has a feather on him. They could be clutch, res back the healer, and then the healer could bring everyone back too, instead of a 30-minute corpse run for the entire group. It was a brilliant design choice when EQ2 added that to the game, and I feel M&M should include it too. I'm all for the game being difficult, but balance it with respecting player time. Corpse runs just suck, they're not fun. I think it's also critical to make all the healers important in raids. Cleric shouldn't be the only healer you need to raid. I would take inspiration from EQ2's healing system. Clerics, shaman, and druids, they all had flat heals as is in M&M now. But they differed in this. The shamans had specialized wards that absorb damage, druids specialized in heals over time, HOTS, and clerics had reactive healing, heals that procced only when the player took damage. This system made all the healers valuable for raiding. They didn't overwrite each other, they overlapped to work together. Trade skilling. Right now, M&M trade skilling is basically WoW. You go out, farm nodes, and then click create in a bland crafting window. Dice roll happens, either you succeed and it crafts, or it fails and eats your materials. Lame. There's a lot more depth that could be implemented whenever devs get the time. Again, ripping from EQ2, it had a whole 9 trade skill class system independent of adventuring, independent of going out and grinding mobs. And it was great. You go out and gather materials from nodes as it is now, but then enter into a crafting minigame to make these items. Instead of a dice roll that's completely out of your hands, it's a minigame where player actions in that minigame decide the outcome. It's more involved. And you earn experience by crafting items to level up your trade skill class, where you can make more and more valuable stuff. Another form of progression in the game. It would add a lot. And this trade skilling system could be invaluable in making cities worth returning to, making them hub spots where players continue to congregate even in far later expansions. You could restrict the crafting tables you have to use, they're only in the cities. Epic weapons. I heard the devs talking about implementing epic weapons in the future. These are some ideas I have for it. Maybe make it a 3-stage quest. So in the first stage, you can earn a base level version of the epic that only involves doing grouping level content. Then stage 2, if you complete certain raid encounters, you can power up your group level epic to full strength to a raid level. Then in later expansions, when the epic weapons generally become obsolete stat-wise, create a third stage to the quest where you can convert the epic weapon effect into a passive spell or ability, thus keeping the epic still relevant to have, still worth doing as a quest, even if not equipped. So some of the ideas I have for the full power version of the epics, I'll put it on the screen, but there's a lot of stuff. I think there's some really cool ideas. I hope they consider it. Miscellaneous design choices. For raiding, I'd like the raid mobs to spawn in open world so they can be contested and also be able to be spawned in an instant zone every week. Players and guilds who want to compete in open world and have contested fights, they'll have the opportunity to do so. And then players who need scheduled raid times for work-life balance can also attempt all the raids in their own private instance zones. I feel that scarcity shouldn't limit players from attempting raid content, skill should. That's why I'm arguing for instance raids. I would also like a system at max level to encourage players to continue grouping up despite there being no way to further level up. Perhaps a method to power up gear with earned experience or shifting experience towards alternate advancement points. Give a reason for max level players to continue grouping up instead of making a new tune. This is a fault I see with EverQuest with classic Kunark and Velius, where there was no reason to log on your max level character. Whereas Lucklin, when they added alternate advancements, that solved that issue. Next, if devs are gonna put powerful clicky drops in the game, I think it's better to make them quested instead of a random drop, a dice roll. Make it a difficult quest, a heritage quest, a quest that updates group-wide if conditions are met. Like if you're trying to get the journeyman boots, everyone with the quest should get an update if the ancient Cyclops is killed, as opposed to just one person getting the rare drop and only them being able to finish the quest. I'd rather valuable items be hard quests than rare dice rolls. And talking about drops, right now you right-click the corpses to loot them, but it makes loot distribution very burdensome in groups. I don't really like it. I think there should be a loot system where you click the corpse and a window pops up asking if you want to greed, need, or pass on the item. The loot gets automatically rolled out. The game is about killing mobs, not micromanaging how to distribute every piece of loot from those mobs. And raiding could really use a feature like this so the leader can make sure that no one ninja loots crap. Next, I'd like a shared bank slot so you can transfer items between your characters. I think it's a basic given. I'd like an instance group zone feature. If a grouping zone gets too overcrowded, an empty clone will spawn for people to move into. During the playtest, I had groups that wanted to check out dungeons but couldn't because it was just far too crowded. There were no open camps. Camp scarcity shouldn't restrict players from checking out new zones. And last thought, maybe devs can add a money sink into the game by allowing players to turn gear into appearance items. Take some cool looking piece of gear item or weapon with 500 plat, turn it into this NPC, and then you get an appearance item back that you can slot in to look cool. That would be a sweet system. Chapter 3, Final Thoughts. Overall, I had a lot of fun with this playtest. I really liked M&M. I got hooked, man. The core gameplay of grouping, it just works. It's so enjoyable. And it has a market. It has a niche market to exploit. Modern EQ is so far removed from the original game, it's inaccessible. Nobody wants to play it. And if you play early recreations of the game, like P99, it's more accessible, but it's so stale because I've seen the same stuff over and over and over. Everything's known. M&M is a fresh game that's familiar yet new enough to be interesting. Not everything is known. But I feel the game needs a little more. So M&M's main competition, Pantheon devs have spent years and years to release basically nothing. They overextended themselves, the promises of all these features they couldn't deliver on in a reasonable time frame. And then when Brad McQuaid died, the vision, I feel like that game went completely off the rails. It lost what it wanted to be. This is the game we're making, and that's it. Brad seemed like he was all about
How do we push the MMO genre forward? We're going to take heavy inspiration from the past, but add a little spice to it. We're going to add something new to make it even better. And now juxtapose Pantheon with Monsters and Memories. M&M is more pragmatic. It's more limited in scope. Let's just put out a working game now and improve on it as we go. That's smart. Let's not overextend ourselves like Pantheon. But I feel like they're not really innovating. They're just making EverQuest 1 with different graphics. I don't feel like they're finding a way to significantly distance themselves from EQ. Take inspiration from EQ, of course, but do something with it. Separate yourself. Why should people play M&M over EverQuest or Classic WoW? That's what they need to answer. Why listen to a cover band of Metallica when you could just listen to real Metallica? Why play M&M, a cover of EQ, when you could just play real EQ? I feel that if you're going to take the huge risk to make a game like this, do something with it. Be bold, stand out. How do they do that? I think they should do that by taking the best of new and old school MMOs. WoW, a game where you can log on with just 30 minutes and get something done. It's accessible and it respects your time, but it's so convenient to play alone that why would you ever want to play with others? It feels bland. And grouping loses so much depth when you dial down the class system. Trinity MMOs are just so plain Jane boring to me. And then you have EverQuest, a game where it's so difficult that you have to team up with others to play. And that teamwork is so much fun, so much more fun than playing alone. The classes play beautifully together in a group setting, but God forbid you have to play alone. The game is completely unplayable. I think the perfect MMO would be one that retains accessibility like WoW, where you can log on with 10 minutes and do something alone whenever. But it strongly pushes you to group for that better experience, for that better loot, the better fun. But I feel like I'm ultimately just barking in the wind here. It's their game. They're going to do what they want. Some of my ideas could be completely stupid, and I understand that. I think this is just the meta issue holding MMOs back. How do you balance new school with old school? The game that can figure that out, I think it'll make a lot of money. But in the end, I really like this game. The grouping is very fun. I like how massive the world is and how players have to work together. I like that the devs are keeping some inconveniences in the game, but I'm concerned that the devs are going too far with inconveniencing players. Even though the criticism I've made here can come off as harsh, I think it's because M&M has something worth fighting for. It's really, really fun to me. I like 80% of it. I just really hate two things about it. One, I don't like being stuck because I can't find a group. I want to be able to log on and do something solo. And two, the punishment for dying is just far too harsh. Keep it punishing, yes, but within reason. Dying shouldn't destroy my progress. Get me back to the EXP grind immediately. That's the fun of the game. Anything that stops me from having fun in the game is stupid. But I'll end there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're still here at this point, oh my god, thank you. Thank you, you're awesome.